What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. Anthony Joshua, the WBA, WBO, and IBF heavyweight champion, recently did an interview with Sky Sports. That's the network that showcases Anthony Joshua's fights in the UK. And the subject of Deontay Wilder came up. And Anthony Joshua piggybacked on what his promoter, Eddie Hearn, a.k.a. Eddie the Con Artist, said when Deontay Wilder did his Instagram post and told Tyson Fury that he gave him an opportunity in a rematch when he could have easily fought Anthony Joshua for more money on the zone. And Eddie Hearn quickly came out and said, see what I said? Y'all try to make it look like Anthony Joshua was ducking Deontay Wilder. I'm glad the truth came out. We was trying to make the fight. Deontay Wilder didn't want to make the fight. He could have fought us on the zone. The zone offered him $120 million, and he turned it down to pursue the Tyson Fury rematch. But the problem with that is you're telling half the story. You're not telling the whole story. The story was, yeah, he could have fought AJ for more money, $120 million, than he would have got fighting Tyson Fury in the rematch. But the problem was the contract wasn't right. The deal was not right. Even the president of the zone, John Skipper, said they did not have their ducks in a row. They did not have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. So tell the whole story. And don't tell half the story, Eddie the Con Artist. Y'all love to play these games. You know, y'all love the smoke and mirrors. Y'all love the propaganda. And the end result is you want to make AJ look like he don't never duck nobody. He want all the smoke. He not scared to fight anybody. But when we all know that's not the case. Wilder's them offered you $50 million guaranteed minimum. Let me repeat myself. Deontay Wilder's team offered Anthony Joshua's $50 million guaranteed minimum. You know what a guaranteed minimum means? That means you're going to lease. That's the least you're going to make is $50 million. You're going to make more than that, but if everything go bad, if everything go wrong, nobody buy a ticket to the fight. The TV ratings are one of the lowest rated boxing matches in boxing history. AJ still walking out the door with $50 million, ladies and gentlemen. That's what a $50 million guaranteed minimum is. And that's what Team Wilder offered Anthony Joshua. Plus 50-50 of the pay-per-view percentage. So say the fight do $2 million. He gets $1 million of that percentage of that pay-per-view. If you clock in $80 a pop, which probably would have been the price, let's just round it off to $80, $79.99, $80 on the pay-per-view. $1 million? What's that is? What's that? 800,000? That's 800. I mean, my bad. What I'm saying? What am I saying? That's $1 million pay-per-views time. Say it do $1 million. Say it do $2 million. That's $1 million times 80. What's that? $8 million? $8 million. If my math is not mistaken. $1 million times 80. Put another 8 on there, put another 0 on there. That's $80 million. I'm shortchanging myself. That's another $80 million on top of the $50 million. Potentially can earn around $130 million, if my math is not mistaken. Just say it is $8 million you get off the pay-per-view. That's $8 million plus the 50. That's $58 million. You're looking at close to $60 million when you add in sponsorships, and maybe he gets a percentage of the other revenue from the fight. He looking at $60 million he walking away from in that fight. And AJ wanted to take that fight, ladies and gentlemen. But Eddie Hearn and Papa Hearn made him turn that offer down. They didn't make him turn the offer down. Yeah, they made him turn the offer down. Let me just say it like this. AJ got a slave contract with Matchroom Boxing. Let me repeat myself. Anthony Joshua has a slave contract with Matchroom Boxing. I know you're saying, JB Sports, what are you saying? You saying AJ is one of the highest paid boxers in the sport. How you gonna say he's got a slave contract? Well, let me explain myself. The reason why he has a slave contract is he doesn't have no say on who he fights. He gonna get his money. He's the best thing that ever happened to Matchroom Boxing. You take him away from Matchroom Boxing. Matchroom Boxing is a regional boxing promotional company. They're basically just a regional boxing promotional company. What I mean by that, they just basically put on somewhat big fights in the UK. They don't have anything going on outside of that. They're a regional boxing promotion company once AJ becomes irrelevant, if he becomes irrelevant. And they know that. He's their cash cow. He was keeping that company mentioned with the likes of the PBC and Top Rank and Golden Boy. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. And for Anthony Joshua to come out here and put his spin on it, and basically you can tell he's been going to the school of Eddie Hearn, who's always pushing the propaganda, who's always with the smoke and mirror, who's always trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. And you just got to be smart enough not to fall for it. Because you fall for anything, if you fall for everything, you can't stand for nothing. So you got to be smart, and you got to be able to think for yourself and quit just taking what these people saying and running with it. Deontay Wilder did not take the DAZN deal because the DAZN deal wasn't right. And the president of DAZN, John Skipper himself, said the deal wasn't right. They know they didn't have their act together. They didn't have their I's dotted. They did not have their T's crossed. They did not have the requisite paperwork and the requisite answers that Team Wilder was asking from them. They could not answer that. They couldn't tell them what AJ was making in a potential matchup with Wilder. Matter of fact, AJ is not even signed to DAZN. He's signed to Matchroom Boxing. He fights DAZN on a fight-by-fight basis. So he's not even really included in the deal. So the deal that Wilder had with DAZN potentially would have been just between DAZN and Wilder. A deal with them two. He'd have fought Dominic Brazil for $20 million and then fought AJ for at least $40 million. And then after that, they're looking at some fights with Dillian White and other guys that are up under Matchroom Boxing stable that are in the heavyweight division. That's what the deal was. But AJ couldn't be in the deal because he's not exclusively signed to DAZN. He's exclusively signed to Matchroom Boxing. And he fights on DAZN on a fight-by-fight basis. That's what Eddie Hearn is not telling you. That's what Anthony Joshua is not telling you. They're trying to make it look like Deontay Wilder's ducking, but when it's in all actuality, they've been ducking from day one. They're just, what you're trying to do is they're just trying to pull the wool over your eyes. They playing the old shell game, moving the shell pieces around, trying to fool the public once again. But I'm going to do this video and let you know what's really going on and what it's really about. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Understand? Look at the facts of the matter. When this thing first got going with Anthony Joshua and Wilder, let's call it the Anthony Joshua Wilder saga. Let's put a spin on it. Let's call it the AJ Wilder saga. When Deontay Wilder blasted and put to sleep without the NyQuil Bermain Stavern in the rematch, he was buzzing right now. His knockout was on every YouTube clip, and it was getting a lot of views. I can't remember if that was a knockout of the year in that particular year. If it wasn't, it should have been. AJ had just got through beating Joseph Parker, who was then the WBO heavyweight champion, become the unified heavyweight champion to collect his belt, the WBO belt, and defend his belt, the WBA and IBF. He became the unified champion once he defeated Joseph Parker in a boring ass fight. That fight was so boring. That was a snore fest. That's what that fight was. That was a snore fest. The referee should have been banned. He shouldn't have refereed no other fight after that fight. That man didn't let no inside fighting go on. Anytime they started getting inside and Joseph Parker was trying to work his punches inside, that referee would come in there and jump in and break them up because they wanted that fight fought from a distance where AJ had the obvious physical advantage, being the taller guy with the longer reach. So that fight was boring, and it was just, that unification fight is not going to go down in boxing history. That's not going to be one of the fights you talk about 20, 30 years ago. That's not going to be one of the fights you mentioned with Thriller in Manila, Rumble in the Jungle, Foreman Lau, Shavers Ken Norton, Shavers Muhammad Ali. Ali Leon Spinks, the first fight. That fight's not going to be mentioned with none of those fights. That was horrible. That's one of the fights I watched it one time live when it came on. I have no reason to go back and watch that fight ever again. That's how boring that fight was. But give Anthony Joshua credit. He took care of business. He won that fight. He won that fight. And that's when the things got clicking. They tried to throw Dillian White in the mix after Dillian White knocked out Lucas Brown, the Michelin Man. Dillian White got up there saying, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. They were trying to entice Wilder to come over there and fight Dillian White in the UK for Wilder's belt. Wilder told him, fine, I'll fight him, but put AJ on the end of that contract. Once I knock out Dillian White and hit him with the one-hitter quitter, the right hand, and put him to sleep without the night quill, make sure AJ is on the end of that contract. Eddie Hearn was like Red in Friday. He said, no. You know when Debo knocked out Red Son, when Red Son came back, asked for his bike back, he says, my bike, punk. And then he looked at Red and said, you want some of this, old man? And old Red said, no. And that's what Eddie Hearn said when Wilder say, put AJ on the end of that contract, because once I knock out your guard dog, Dillian White, I want to make sure I get AJ next. And Eddie Hearn said no. So Wilder them said, look, let's make it happen. Let's negotiate. So Eddie Hearn sent a contract to Deontay Wilder. It wasn't an official contract, but he sent what you call a term paper of the money that the Wilder would make in a potential matchup with Anthony Joshua. $12.5 million flat fee, no percentage of the pay-per-view. The fight was going to be on pay-per-view in the UK, and I don't know if it would have been on pay-per-view in the United States of America for the fact that it was going to be on around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's kind of hard to sell a pay-per-view during that time. So they were not offering Deontay Wilder no pay-per-view in the UK, and no pay-per-view period for potentially putting it on in the United States of America. $12.5 million flat fee. And Wilder said, hell to the no. I got a belt. I'm the WBC champion. He's the WBA, WBO, and IBF champion. This is a unification fight. This fight is for undisputed. Where have you ever seen a champion being offered a flat fee? Oh, wait a minute, JB Sports. Didn't Floyd Mayweather offer Manny Pacquiao a flat fee of $40 million? He sure damn did offer him a contract for $40 million, and guess what? Manny Pacquiao said, you must be out your rabbit ass mind. Because I'm not taking no $40 million. And they negotiated, and negotiations continued, and guess what? Manny Pacquiao got $180 million. That's what he left home. That's what he left out the door with after that Mayweather fight. So you ain't never seen no champion taking no flat fee in a fight to determine who's the number one in that particular division. And Wilder wasn't finna start a trend. So he said, hell to the no. But you know what? Wilder said, okay. Wilder wanted to make the fight so bad, Wilder sent the $50 million. And like I said, Eddie Hearn and Papa Hearn made AJ turn that contract down because AJ has no say-so on who he fights. He fights who Master Hearn tell him to fight. So he has no say-so. He makes good money, but he's out. He has a slave contract with Matchroom Boxing, ladies and gentlemen. So they killed the $50 million deal. And then that's when Team Joshua sent Deontay Wilder an improved offer. They moved up from the $12.5 million. They moved up to $15 million flat fee. Still no pay-per-view percent, but $15 million flat fee. That's what Eddie Hearn sent to Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder was like, hell no. $12.5 million was insulting. $15 million is not even respecting what I'm bringing to the table. So he said, no, hell no. So Anthony Joshua, that's when he came in, making it look like he was a boss, making it like he was actually calling the shots. So I guess he talked to Eddie and talked to Papa Hearn and said, look, let's offer it up. Let's up the ante a little bit. And they upped it from 15 to 17 million. I believe was the fee. I think they upped it up to 15 to 17 million dollars, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was 12.5 to 15 million. They upped the offer from what the original flat fee was. And the bottom line was Deontay Wilder accepted the flat fee. So he said, okay, I'm going to accept the flat fee. I'm going to go on over there to the UK. You know, y'all going to control the promotion. Y'all going to control the show. Y'all going to pick the judges, pick the referee and all that. I don't care nothing about that. I'm going to go in and knock this boy out. It's not going to even go down. It's not going to even go to the judges where y'all can rob me. I'm going to knock this fool out. So Deontay Wilder accepted the flat fee. Send over the contract and let me know when I'm supposed to fight and where it's going to be. Eddie Hearn and them send Deontay Wilder a contract with no date on it and no venue. Now, what kind of mess is that? Wilder already accepted your low ball offer of $15 million when he know he should have been at least getting $20 million at least right off the top. So he was taking a $5 million dip, but he wanted to prove that he's the best in the heavyweight division. So he figured I go in there and knock him out and I'll make that money back and then some in future fights. I just got to go over here and beat this guy and show everybody I'm the number one man in the heavyweight division. So he went on and took that disrespectful offer by Eddie Hearn in Matchroom Boxing. And then they had the unmitigated gall to send a contract over with no venue and no dates. They never wanted to fight, ladies and gentlemen. So Wilder and his manager, Shelly Finkel, by this time, Shelly Finkel had already figured out that really they playing games. They pulling the smoke and mirrors. They just making it look like they trying to make the fight, but in actuality, they not trying to make no fight. Cause they sending over contracts with no venue and no date over here. They playing games. You know, you send them an email, they not responding immediately to the email. They waiting 2 or 3 days pass before they respond to the email when you asking them where the venue, where the date is, and then they send over. They send the contract over there with the date. They send the contract over there with the venue, but not the date and stuff like that. Just playing games and playing a stalling tactics, playing a delay game. You know, they playing 20. You know, they playing prevent defense. If we're gonna use a football analogy, you know, they basically playing basketball back in the day when they ain't have no shot clock. They holding the ball and just waiting for the time to run off. And then the WBA came out and said, "Look, y'all done been negotiating for so long, y'all haven't come to no deal. Okay, then, well, we're going to push the mandatory, and the mandatory is Alexander Povetkin. You must fight him, Anthony Joshua." So that gave Eddie Hearn all he needed to do was to slide out that side door and get out of the negotiations with Wilder and his team and set up the fight between AJ and Alexander Povetkin and say, "Oh, man, I tried to make the fight, but y'all messing around, y'all stalling, y'all don't want to sign the contract," even though the contract didn't have no venue or no date on it. But let Eddie tell it. "Y'all don't want to sign the contract. We offered you more money. We increased the offer from the original offer. Y'all don't want to sign the contract." Who would sign a contract with no date, no venue on it? Well, they trying to make it look like AJ is making it look like Wilder didn't want to sign the contract. And then they finally said, "Go ahead, let's just sign the contract, accept the money, and then we'll worry about the venue and the date at a later time. But let's just sign the contract." And when they was in the midst of trying to sign the contract and send it over, that's when Eddie Hearn pulled the old WBA card from the bottom of the deck and said the WBA is calling for AJ to defend his title versus Alexander Povetkin next. That fight must happen next, but they've given enough time for Anthony Joshua and Wilder to come to an agreement, and they haven't done that, so we're tired of waiting. Never heard of nothing like that. Never seen nothing like that. How does a mandatory trump unification anyway? I thought throughout boxing history that unification trumps mandatories. This is a unification matchup between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. That should trump some mandatory with Anthony Joshua versus twice beaten Alexander Povetkin, the man that's the head of the man that should be in the PD Hall of Fame. That boy Povetkin, he got a master's in performance enhancing drugs. That guy should be teaching a class on how to get PDs in your system without getting caught. He got caught many times, but he done a whole lot of times he didn't get caught. They just found that's just the times they found that he had PDs in the system. He been fighting a whole lot of fights that nothing was found in his system. He just got caught those times. So this guy obviously got a master degree in PED cheating and how to get away with it. And you want to fight this guy, and every time he fought the elite level of division, he lost. He lost to Vladimir Klitschko, and he lost to Anthony Joshua. He's the Luke Campbell of the heavyweight division. Good fighter in Povetkin, but he's not elite level. And every time he got in there with the top echelon of the division, Comes up shorter than a midget on his knees. That same thing happened with Luke Campbell. Lost to Jorge Linares. Lost to Vasily Lomachenko. Now a lot of you UK fans thinking, oh, Luke Campbell, he's going to beat Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia is inexperienced. He's too green. He's wet behind the ears. Watch Ryan Garcia on December 5th knock Luke Campbell the fuck out. Watch what I tell you. I'm going to make a analysis and a prediction video on that next month. That's coming shortly. Just get ready for that. I'm going to break that fight down. I ain't going to shortchange Luke Campbell. I ain't going to shortchange him. He's a solid fighter, though. I'm going to break that fight down in depth, but you can already tell by what I've just said who I'm leaning toward picking in that fight. We'll see what happens on that end, though. But let's get back to the matter at hand. And that's AJ out here on the propaganda mission with the smoke and mirrors, trying to make it look like Deontay Wilder ducked the fight when he know he has no connection with the zone. He doesn't have a contract with the zone. He's on a fight-by-fight deal with the zone. He's exclusively signed to Matchroom Boxing. So for Deontay Wilder to sign that contract with the zone, and for them to say that contract would get him the opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua in the ring, maybe not. But it wasn't nothing in concrete. And plus, if he did sign that contract, guess what just happened after he would have signed that contract? Anthony Joshua got knocked the fuck out by Andy Ruiz. Wilder knocked Dominic Breazeale into the middle of next week when he knocked him out in the first round. But then he would have been stuck like Chuck. Because AJ would have then, would have had to fight Andy Ruiz again, and Wilder would have been sitting over there twiddling his thumbs. He still wouldn't have fought AJ next, like the contract was stating that he fight Dominic Breazeale for $20 million, win that fight, and then would fight AJ next for $40 million. That fight would have never took place because AJ was getting knocked the fuck out and getting beat around from pillar to post by Andy Ruiz in Madison Square Garden when they fought. So that fight still wouldn't have happened. So kill that noise and miss me with those talking points, with that BS about Wilder ducking Anthony Joshua and turning down the DAZN deal, the $120 million DAZN deal. And that number wasn't even accurate. As Shelly Finkel, Deontay Wilder manager said, he said, it wasn't even a $120 million deal. It wasn't even a $120 million DAZN deal. It was more like a $100 million DAZN deal. But they put that number out there to just make Wilder like, man, how could he turn down $120 million? He could fight the rest of his career and not make $120 million. But guess what? He made $20 million fighting Dominic Breazeale anyway on Showtime. He still got his $20 million. And then he made $25 million fighting Fury in the second fight and made around $15 million in the first fight. So when it got down to it, Deontay Wilder didn't lose much at all. And wouldn't have really gained some, because like I said, he never would have fought Anthony Joshua if he signed that contract with the zone, because Anthony Joshua had lost to AJ. He lost to Andy Ruiz. Now, you say, well, he beat Andy Ruiz in the rematch, then he fight Wilder after Andy Ruiz. You mean to tell me that Eddie Hearn, after losing those belts and then getting those belts back, he lost the belt to Andy Ruiz. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody thought Anthony Joshua was going to lose to the Michelin Man, the Pillsbury Doughboy, Andy Ruiz. Nobody saw that coming. Okay, they had a rematch clause. That's smart on their part, because that was a voluntary. You don't never not put no rematch clause in a voluntary defense. Especially, in the mandatory, you're not going to have a rematch clause. So anything that's voluntary, that's not a mandatory defense, when you're the champion, you put a rematch clause in there. So that's a smart move. I give credit where credit's due. That's a smart move by Eddie Hearn. So they had a rematch clause, and you beat Andy Ruiz in a rematch in a fight that you didn't want to engage. You did a lot of running around. You was just using your jab, you used your attributes, you used your height, and used your jab. But you was every time Andy Ruiz was able to catch you with a shot, you was basically in panic mode, basically grabbing, holding, and moving around the ring. You didn't want to engage at all, like you didn't have any confidence in your chin holding up. But you got the job done and you won that fight. But we'll see what happens when you fight Kubrat Pulev on December the 12th. He's a guy that throws right hands from round 1 to round 12. He's going to continue to throw that right hand until you knock him out. So we'll see how you respond to a guy that's not out of shape, a guy that's not a couch potato like Andy Ruiz was in the second fight. And even in the first fight, that matter. He just was in a little bit better shape in the first fight than he was in the second fight. But he was still out of shape in both fights, and he needs to get in better condition if he wants to compete at the elite level. Now that he's with world-renowned trainer Eddie Reynoso, who trains Canelo Alvarez, hopefully he gets him in the best shape possible, and this guy can contend with the top level of fighters in the heavyweight division. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what transpires. But miss me with that BS, Anthony Joshua. You know good and damn well that Deontay Wilder didn't duck your ass. You know good and damn well that Wilder wanted to fight you, and if you would have took the $50 million, but you did want to take the $50 million, you couldn't take the $50 million. I'm going to give you credit. I ain't going to just throw anything at you and just, lie on you. I ain't going to do that. You wanted to take that $50 million, but you couldn't. Master Hearn, Eddie Hearn, a.k.a. Eddie the Con Artist, and Papa Hearn wouldn't allow you to take that deal. So they put a kibosh on that deal, and that's why that fight didn't take place. But quit trying to make Deontay Wilder look like the bad guy. Quit trying to make Deontay Wilder wear the black hat when you know good and well that he wanted to fight you. And the reason why he didn't take that DAZN deal was because it wasn't right. Even the president of John Skipper, the president of DAZN, John Skipper, even he admitted that they didn't have their ducks in a row. They didn't have the answers to the questions that Deontay Wilder and his team needed to know in order for them to sign the contract with DAZN, which is a startup app. It's an app that's not even established here in the United States. It's not even established in the United States right now. They've been around for a couple of years. You know, you got ESPN with Top Rank, Bob Arum. You got the PBC, Al Heyman. They're on Showtime and Fox, and on Fox Sports 1. You got you got these top networks. They're on established channels. And here you is on the startup channel, the DAZN app, where you got to watch fights on your phone. And a lot of people not going to be doing that. They rather put the fight on TV and watch it on TV, or go to a sports bar and watch it. So it still remains to be seen. Well, what's the DAZN be successful? Because right now you hear rumors about them losing money hand over fist. You paying Canelo $365 million contract over 11 fights, I believe, and he's not fighting the fighters you want him to fight. You signed Triple G especially for the reason to come over there and fight Canelo for a third fight, to up your subscription and get maybe a million subscription with DAZN, and you can start showing a profit, start reaping some of that money that you put out to Canelo Alvarez and Triple G, and that still hasn't happened. So that was a good move by Deontay Wilder. He's a free agent. He can fight anywhere. As you know, his last fight, he fought on ESPN and Fox when he fought Tyson Fury in the rematch and made $25 million. So it was a good deal on Deontay Wilder's part. That fight did over 800,000 pay-per-view buys. So he wouldn't have had no 800,000 people watching him if he'd been fighting on DAZN. That's just a fact of the matter. That's just a God-honest truth. So miss me with that. AJ, miss me with that. Let me know what you think about Anthony Joshua out here jumping on the bandwagon of what Eddie Hearn said about Wilder ducking the fight with Anthony Joshua in order to fight Tyson Fury in the rematch and turning down allegedly $120 million deal with DAZN. Let me know what you think about that. Do you believe what AJ saying, which I just pointed out and gave facts behind this, that he didn't duck him, and it's obvious to everybody, should be obvious to everybody that Deontay Wilder didn't duck AJ. But let me know your thoughts on AJ saying that Deontay Wilder ducked him to fight Tyson Fury in the rematch and turned down $120 million with DAZN. Let me know your thoughts, and hit the like button or hit the dislike button. But let me know you're watching the video. Hit the button and let me know that you're checking out this content of this video. And subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. I holla.